While other survival experts are still chewing tree bark and roots, Ed Stafford is already enjoying tender eggs. After swallowing 2 of these dark cuisine delicacies, he's immediately overwhelmed by the taste. Not stopping there, he heads straight to the marshlands to probe crab holes with his hands. Though the pinches are painful, the haul proves well worth it. Come evening, he feasts on charcoal-grilled snake meat as thick as his arm. To cut through the grease, he rounds out the meal with wild fruits, a perfect balance of protein and vitamins. New challenge: Madagascar survival. As a renowned survival expert, Ed Stafford embarks on a fresh challenge, this time on Africa's Madagascar island. The journey begins with a ride in the production team's vehicle, speeding dramatically to the drop-off point, then transferring to a local's luxury yacht. With the boatman's farewell, Ed begins his challenge at the starting point. Given the region's scorching, arid climate and high risk of heat stroke, his top priority is finding fresh water immediately. Standing alone at the launch point, Ed's famously bald head gleaming in the sun, he prepares for his starvation journey with confidence. The mission: reach a village 40 kilometers away. His gear remains his classic survival trio, plus a drone for aerial footage. Drawing on experience, Ed quickly orients toward the village and begins trekking with his backpack. The muddy terrain proves treacherous and entertaining. Each step sinks deep, exhausting him within minutes. The calorie expenditure is immense, forcing him to crawl on all fours at times. Just as he clears the worst mud, a river blocks his path. Knowing local wildlife can be aggressive, wading through risks deadly encounters, he opts to detour instead. Then he notices the rising tide. His face immediately clouds with concern. Progress today seems impossible. Retracing his steps to a smaller channel, he finds waist-deep water already. Picking up speed, Ed grows increasingly anxious as the tide surges faster than he can move. After an exhausting struggle, a sandbar emerges ahead, its dry appearance promising safety. Sure enough, it feels solid underfoot, bringing a relieved smile, until rising seawater completely surrounds it minutes later. Even Ed's confidence wavers now. Day 2. Fortunately, his high campsite spared him from the tide overnight. With the water receded, Ed resumes his journey. As temperatures soar, after 2.5 hours under the brutal sun, dehydration sets in, dry mouth, dizziness, early heat exhaustion symptoms. 3 hours later, he finally escapes the marsh. Suddenly, a bird bursts from nearby shrubs. Investigating the nest, Ed discovers eggs, but upon cracking one open, finds a partially developed embryo, veiny and red with forming limbs. Despite years of eating unconventional snacks on camera, this makes even Ed's scalp crawl. Yet with 6 missed meals over 2 days, he steels himself and swallows it whole. Surprisingly, hunger makes it taste acceptable. He eagerly downs a second egg, only to gag at the horrific flavor. After replenishing some calories, Ed Stafford continued trekking under the scorching Sunday. Soon, he entered a grove of baobab trees, a species endemic to the region, reputed to live for thousands of years. Whether that's true or not, Ed had no mind to ponder now. He knew one thing clearly: without finding water soon, he wouldn't survive the day. Seeking shade under a tree, he paused to rest. Apart from those 2 bird eggs earlier, he'd consumed nothing liquid all day. Exhaustion and thirst overwhelmed him. Lightheaded, vision blurring, even his thinking grew sluggish. Just as he considered calling for evacuation, a vine nearby caught his attention. Experience told him its underground roots likely stored fresh water. Action followed thought immediately. Grabbing a stick, he began digging fervently. 30 minutes later, success. A plump, pale root emerged. Pulling it out revealed impressive length and girth, bringing a broad smile to his face. He bit into it hungrily. Crisp, juicy chunks, with a subtle coconut flavor. This single root contained at least a bottle's worth of water, plus ample carbohydrates. Several satisfying bites later, he carefully reburied the remaining root to regrow. Day 3. Having detoured to avoid mangrove swamps, Ed found himself significantly off course. Breakfast came from baobab fruits overhead. Too tall to reach, he scavenged the ground instead, soon finding a freshly fallen specimen. Splitting it open revealed plump flesh. First taste: fermented malt-like flavor, packed with vitamins surpassing beef, and rich in essential minerals. Never one to waste resources, Ed stuffed 2 fruits into his pack for later. Water remained the pressing priority. Reaching a dry riverbed, he noticed slightly damp soil, audibly crunchy underfoot. More digging ensued. Before long, fresh water seeped through. Parched Ed drank greedily, his bald head gleaming with renewed vitality. To transport this hard-won water, he hollowed out a baobab fruit, filling it with water to create a nutrient-rich soup for future hydration. Revitalized, he marched onward, then froze at an unexpected sight. An unlucky serpent crossing his path. Starving Ed showed no mercy. A few precise strikes with his staff, and the snake became portable protein, tucked securely in his pocket. As dusk approached, he settled beneath a massive tree and resumed his signature survival cooking. Anticipating charcoal-grilled snake, he worked enthusiastically. The arid environment helped flames rise quickly. After burying the snake in an earthen oven beneath the fire, he waited patiently. Ironically, just as his meal neared readiness, thunder rumbled across the typically rainless region. Yet against the odds, his snake emerged perfectly cooked, his first proper protein in days. Devouring it ravenously on the ground, Ed found it infinitely superior to the bird eggs. Tender texture, spicy and aromatic, utterly irresistible. Satiated and content, he slept soundly under the stormy skies. Day 5. The 5th day arrived. Ed Stafford set out without breakfast. After a morning of trekking, his route finally corrected course. His remaining water supply dwindled, leaving Ed visibly concerned. But worse awaited. Another mangrove swamp blocked his path. After prolonged deliberation, Ed once again chose to detour. By noon, temperatures soared to a brutal 40 degrees Celsius. Just as exhaustion neared its limit, a wild waterhole appeared unexpectedly. Without hesitation, Ed pressed his bald head forward to test the water. Confirming it fresh, his face lit up with relief. He drank until comfortably full. Rehydrated, Ed's scalp regained its characteristic shine. Deciding to camp nearby, he set down his pack and ventured into the mangroves for food. Immediately, he began probing holes with a stick, then switched to bare-handed excavation. His efforts yielded a large blue crab. Encouraged, he repeated the process, until a crab's painful pinch taught him respect. Despite the pain, the bountiful catch justified the struggle. Back at camp, Ed feasted contentedly. The plump crab claws burst with protein, each bite a nutritional triumph. Day 6. At dawn, instinct suggested the village neared. To verify, Ed climbed a hill for vantage. The ascent proved treacherous. Shifting sands caused constant backsliding. Through agile maneuvering, he finally summited, only to find nothing. Exhausted, he pressed onward. Hours later, fatigue forced him to make camp. He collapsed into immediate sleep. Final day. Revitalized at dawn, Ed resumed his journey. After 2.5 hours, numerous hoofprints signaled civilization's proximity. Summoning final strength, he crested one last dune, the long-awaited village finally visible. With joyful relief, he boarded a boat homeward. The challenge concluded successfully. New challenge: Rhodope Mountains. Ed's jungle feasts had featured astonishing variety, transforming survival into near vacation. His final charcoal-grilled snail meal, however, produced pure culinary agony. Now in Bulgaria's wild Rhodope Mountains, renowned for abundant wildlife, including wolves and brown bears, skeptical Ed prepared to test local fauna. Selecting a prime mountain location, he confidently began his starvation challenge, equipped solely with emergency items. The objective: reach a reservoir 30 kilometers away. Using solar navigation, he established direction promptly. Hoping to maximize progress while energized, his plans faltered immediately. A near-fatal slip on treacherous slopes forced cautious reassessment. Choosing detours over risks, he pressed forward determinedly. Upon reaching a vantage point, he discovered his path blocked by mountains, requiring hours of additional circumnavigation. Mid-journey, fresh brown bear scat appeared abruptly. The discovery unsettled him deeply. With nightfall approaching, and no secure campsite available, in this predator-rich environment, fortune provided a cave. Approaching cautiously, He discovered bones at the entrance, heightening unease. Finding the cave otherwise vacant, he steeled himself to shelter there overnight. Nighttime restlessness. Exhausted, Ed Stafford fell asleep early that night. Yet within hours, he sensed something moving near his camp. Sleep became impossible. Another sleepless night awaited. Day 2. Recalling the previous night's ordeal, Ed grabbed his pack and hurried away without looking back. Hours later, a near-vertical cliff across the river halted his progress. Faced with an impassable route, he detoured once more. After grueling hours of trekking, he finally reached a second ridge, only to confront yet another mountain. Undeterred, Ed chose to follow the ridgeline, avoiding the valley below. Several kilometers later, as the ridgeline neared its end, 6 missed meals over 2 days left him weakened. He selected an ideal spot to make camp. For simplicity, he constructed a lean-to shelter. After framing the structure, he layered bark for roofing. The finished shelter fit perfectly. Aside from being open on 3 sides, it served its purpose well. That night, cold and hungry, Ed resolved to find food the next day. Day 3. At dawn, Ed set out foraging. Almost immediately, he discovered dense patches of clover. Without hesitation, he grabbed handfuls and ate them raw. Pleasantly fragrant, the taste encouraged him to sample nearby leaves too. Further searching revealed wild mushrooms. Unwashed, he consumed some immediately and stored the rest in bark wrappings. En route to camp, he spotted a horse hoof fungus. Perfect tinder material. Back at camp, after drying the fungus, he searched the creek for fire-starting stones. The spotted pyrite stones he found, rich in metallic content, proved ideal for spark creation. Returning with the stones, he encountered a wild horse carcass, too decomposed for consumption. Resourceful as ever, he collected mane hairs for potential fishing line. Curiosity prompted him to set up a trail camera before leaving the site. At camp, hours of stone striking finally produced sparks. Nestled in prepared dry grass, flames emerged triumphantly. His first act? Roasting the mushrooms. Within minutes, aroma filled the camp. Ravenous, Ed devoured them eagerly, the crisp, fresh flavor satisfying temporarily. He then hollowed the horsehoof fungus. He preserved embers overnight. Day 4. At daybreak, Ed checked the trail camera footage. The revealed footage stunned him. A bear had passed terrifyingly close, mere hundreds of meters from his camp. Panicked, his non-existent hair nearly stood on end. Grabbing his pack, he fled immediately, shouting loudly to deter potential pursuit. Reaching a stream, he recognized it as nature's highway and followed it to expedite travel. Spotting numerous edible snails along the banks, he soon gathered an ample handful. Considering potential toxins, worried about possible toxins in their bodies, eating them raw risked poisoning. So he gathered strawberry leaves to help detoxify them, hoping for strawberry-flavored snails later. Progress and challenges. As Ed Stafford pressed onward, good news emerged. The destination grew nearer. Bad news followed. The stream changed direction. With night approaching, and campsite concerns mounting, a cave appeared fortuitously. Haunted by prior experiences, he shouted into the cave first. Confirming it empty, he still cautiously lit a campfire for security. Fishing venture. Transforming into an angler, Ed crafted bone fragments into hooks and horsehair into fishing lines, producing 4 complete sets. Baiting them with earthworms, he cast them into the water for overnight soaking. Exhausted, he retired early beneath the stars. Day 5. At dawn, Ed checked his lines. One held a small but precious fish, packed with protein and fat. This premium ingredient required no seasoning, not even gutting. Soon, a protein-rich meal sizzled ready. The renowned survival expert, having endured 11 missed meals in 4 days, finally enjoyed his second proper feast, devouring fish bones and all voraciously. Relentless journey. Revitalized after breakfast, he shouldered his pack and departed. Risking direct routes to save time, he traversed punishing terrain all day. Forced to camp at nightfall, dinner became the previously gathered snails. While roasting them, he prepared tomorrow's breakfast, constructing a mousetrap, baited with snail meat. Unpleasant dining. Inspecting the cooked snails revealed unappetizing gooey contents. Yet calorie needs prevailed. He swallowed them whole. The revolting aftertaste lingered stubbornly. Day 7. Waking unharmed by snail toxins, he found the trap triggered, containing one plump rodent. Properly roasted, this promised far better eating than the cursed snails. Final push. After this meager meal, Ed launched his ultimate sprint. 5 arduous hours later, doubt about directions arose, until water glimmered through trees. The destination at last. 7 days after starting, Ed successfully reunited with his driver, concluding this challenge triumphantly. New challenge: Atacama Desert. Ed Stafford's desert survival featured surprisingly luxurious grilled pufferfish. As with all premium ingredients, minimal preparation sufficed, consumed raw as sashimi, with evident satisfaction. Bolivia's eastern Atacama Desert combines high altitude with extreme aridity and heat. Its barren plateaus rivaled Ed's own hairless scalp. Dropped by production team helicopter, the driver politely abandoned Ed before departing unceremoniously. This mission reached salt flats 50 kilometers distant. Navigation and initial struggles. Using the sun's east-west trajectory as reference, Ed Stafford quickly determined his bearing. Shouldering his pack, he began the arduous trek. Unaccustomed to high-altitude conditions, exhaustion struck within steps. As temperatures climbed steadily, securing water became imperative. Canyon descent. Ahead lay a canyon. Normally, Ed would detour without hesitation, but potential water sources below compelled him to descend. After an hour traversing the valley, thirst and fatigue overwhelmed him. Drenched in cold sweat, heat stroke seemed imminent. Forced to rest in shade temporarily, he resumed travel once temperatures eased. Water discovery. Soon, damp soil and lush vegetation signaled nearby water. True enough, the sound of rushing water soon reached his ears. A substantial wild river emerged, prompting immediate, reckless drinking. Sudden storm. No sooner had he drunk than thunder cracked overhead. A rare downpour commenced. Shelter became urgent. Fortune favored the bald. A perfectly sized rock crevice appeared. He barely entered before torrents fell outside. Declaring this his campsite, Ed cleared loose stones hastily. Too weary to await nightfall, he collapsed into sleep instantly. Day 2. Awakening refreshed, Ed ventured out seeking resources. His findings included a flattened but functional antique tin can, the region's sole tree, yielding a fire drill branch. Returning to camp, he fashioned a hand drill using shoelaces as bowstrings. Fire struggle. High altitude's thin oxygen initially thwarted ignition attempts. 4 relentless hours of friction finally produced precious sparks. Gentle breaths nurtured the fledgling flame. This 5-hour ordeal, compounding 5 missed meals over 2 days, left him too drained to continue. Day 3. Morning frost confirmed sub-zero overnight temperatures. To preserve his hard-won fire, Ed harvested resin-rich plants, ideal tinder when dried over flames. He packed smoldering samples in the tin can. Macabre discoveries. En route, a riverside carcass caught his eye. Closer inspection revealed a decomposing llama corpse, far too rancid for consumption, but its leg tendons proved valuable for fishing line. Later, a plastic bottle appeared, containing 2 desiccated mice. Though unsightly, this became a crucial water container. After thorough cleaning, the desert's harsh lessons continued. After an uncertain amount of time, the river suddenly grew rapid. Since his destination lay on the opposite bank, crossing such swift currents was impossible. After 2.5 minutes of deliberation, he chose to detour around the river. Several kilometers later, the terrain offered no footholds below, let alone a way across the raging water. To make matters worse, the landscape ahead grew increasingly steep. With no alternative routes, he had no choice but to press forward. A brutal challenge after 3 days without food. His only hope was to escape this canyon soon. After several more kilometers, he finally found a gentle slope to cross the river. This trek left Ed Stafford utterly exhausted. Deciding to travel no further today, he immediately sought shelter in a nearby cave. Retrieving his preserved embers, he built a campfire. As night fell, thoughts of protein consumed him. With no other options, he went to bed hungry once more. Day 4. Morning brought existential doubts. Normally, by this point, he'd have enjoyed hearty meals. Instead, 3 days had passed with 9 missed meals. Prolonged starvation began eroding his mental state. He vented his frustrations to the camera. At one point, the usually resilient Ed Stafford broke down in tears. Proof even survival experts crack under such extremes. But quitting wasn't an option. Regaining composure, he collected llama tendons, soaking them in his tin can to soften. Separating the fibers, he braided them into fishing line. For hooks, he repurposed barbed wire found earlier. At the riverbank, he secured the line to a stick planted in the ground, baiting it with rotting llama flesh. Passive waiting wasn't his style. To improve odds, he constructed a stone fish trap along the shore. With traps set, he scavenged bushes for snacks. After thorough searching, one unlucky lizard met its fate. Without ceremony, a stone delivered instant death. Too famished for proper preparation, he consumed it raw, the crunchy texture providing momentary satisfaction. Returning to camp, he retrieved the dead mice from his bottle, then rinsed the container at the river. Checking his fishing lines revealed no catches, until he spotted movement in the stone trap. A small pufferfish became his prize. After days of starvation, proper protein at last, adrenaline surging, he swiftly cleaned it with a stone blade and tossed it into the flames. As fat sizzled, his expression spoke volumes. The cooked fish delivered far superior flavor to lizard sashimi. Tender, rich, outclassing beef in protein content. He devoured every morsel, bones included. Day 5. Fortified by his meal, he left the river, aiming straight for his destination. The steep canyon walls left him gasping for breath. Upon finally scaling them, he verified his bearings and continued. Yet another canyon soon blocked his path, triggering furious cursing. Facing a potential 2.5-day detour, Ed Stafford chose defiance this time. With tremendous effort, he conquered the obstacle, only to encounter yet another canyon, earning more profanity. Grumbling continuously, he pressed forward until emerging exhausted. Spotting another river ahead, he rushed to drink, only to spit it out angrily. Salt water. Defeated, he trudged onward with bitter disappointment. Ed Stafford marched relentlessly from day into night before collapsing onto the first open patch of ground. At dawn, his water bottle neared emptiness. Facing this crisis, he prioritized maintaining composure. Mental stability proved most crucial. 7 relentless hiking hours later, he scaled a mountain to survey the terrain. The summit revealed no trace of his destination. Exhaustion weighed heavily as his water supply fully depleted. Dehydration brought unbearable thirst. No survival tricks remained, just sheer physical endurance and stubborn willpower. 3 scorching hours later, another summit revealed a vast salt flat, undoubtedly the extraction point. Pushed beyond physiological limits, Ed Stafford spotted the approaching vehicle. This 8-day challenge concluded, with ravenous consumption of provided supplies. New expedition, Laos's Pho Liang Mountains. Ed Stafford's jungle feasts bordered on extravagant, charred millipedes with crispy exteriors and tender interiors, delivered protein levels dwarfing beef. True to form, he balanced meat with foraged greens. For nutritional variety, one reckless mushroom snack nearly ended his survival career prematurely. As the bald yet brilliant starvation specialist, Ed now targeted Laos's mine-laden Pho Liang range, a hazardous choice motivated solely by budget constraints. The challenge begins. After vehicular insertion, his mission, trek 30 km to a remote village. Standard protocol applied. Only filming gear and emergency items packed. No food, water, or even hair products. Solar navigation quickly established direction. Immediate obstacles arose. Sheer cliffs demanded dangerous climbing gear he lacked, forcing instant detours. 4 sweltering hours later, a wild river appeared miraculously. Initial dysentery concerns vanished. As he drank greedily, revitalizing instantly. Surveying revealed rafting downstream as the optimal route, until gathering storms postponed construction. A serendipitous cave discovery provided perfect shelter as torrential rains commenced outside. Day 2. Raft building. Morning brought intensive raft construction. Deadwood lashed with vine ropes, formed a serviceable vessel. Launch excitement turned to alarm, as the raft sank partially, yet remained marginally functional. After 2.5 minutes deliberation, Ed proceeded downstream. Despite instability, this method proved exponentially faster than jungle trekking. After drifting for an uncertain amount of time, the mountains ahead remained as steep as ever. Constant paddling drained his energy. Even with his passive starvation endurance, 5 missed meals in 2 days left Ed Stafford struggling. Pushing forward, he spotted a fig tree on the riverbank. The sight of ripe fruit made his mouth water. Desperate, he grabbed a bamboo pole and jabbed at the branches wildly. Splitting open a fallen fig, he found its flesh plump and sweet. A rare smile broke across his face as he savored it. Several figs later, he declared them utterly satisfying. Reinvigorated, he resumed poking the tree, managing to half fill his stomach. Then the wind howled across the water, temperatures plummeting, clearly no conditions for further travel. Ed Stafford decided to camp here for the night. Securing the raft, he scouted for shelter. A hollowed-out tree trunk proved perfect. Windproof, rainproof, an absolute win. With shelter secured, he turned to fire-making. Gone was the man who once cried over failed attempts. Now, flames leapt obediently from his friction drill. The fire's success only sharpened his hunger. Time for protein. The survival buffet begins. First course, an unlucky grasshopper. It nearly escaped, before being recaptured and crunched alive. Crispy, satisfying. Next, a doomed butterfly met the same fate. Ed Stafford chewed contentedly. Finally, a passing millipede fell victim. Though tempted, he exercised restraint, tossing it into the flames instead. The sizzling arthropod emerged, charred and crackling. One bite confirmed its deliciousness. These calories could fuel him for days. Day 3. Morning brought more drifting, until a mountain pass appeared. The current threatened to sweep him past. Frantic paddling barely secured a landing. Ashore, the sheer valley walls dismayed him. Fearing mid-climb exhaustion, he postponed the ascent until dawn, sleeping on damp ground. Day 4. Bamboo canteens filled, he began the grueling climb. Within minutes, he gasped for breath between curses. Then, a misstep, a yelp, followed by furious swearing. Silence. There, half buried, an active landmine. One slight deviation in his fall could have meant disaster. Shaken but unharmed, he pressed upward. An hour later, exhaustion and hunger resurfaced. His bamboo canteen ran dry. Endless trudging later, the terrain leveled, only to reveal endless mountains ahead. Ed Stafford's expression darkened, but he marched on. But the immediate priority was finding fresh water while avoiding landmines. Just as he neared his limit, a sudden grin broke across his face. A stream ahead. Without hesitation, he dropped to the ground and drank greedily, even splashing water over his bald head to cool down. To his surprise, the area wasn't just rich in water. Food was abundant too. He picked up some unknown object, cracked it open, and ate it without a second thought. Next, a cluster of yellowish-brown mushrooms, gobbled down before he could even inspect them. The taste? Surprisingly good. Then, an unidentified fruit. No time to check for poison. He'd find out by eating it. Still munching contentedly, he moved on to Palm Heart. By nightfall, he was thoroughly stuffed. Day 5. At dawn, Ed Stafford followed the stream. 2.5 days later, another mountain blocked his path. Frustration set in. But worse, the stream vanished into a pitch-black cave. Venturing inside seemed suicidal. Detouring through the jungle, risk stepping on a mine, no good options. Finally, he decided to craft a torch. Nearby, he found a dipterocarpus tree, perfect for torch making. He cut into the bark, collecting the resin that oozed out. Heat kept it from hardening. By morning, he'd have enough resin for a long-burning torch. As night fell, he muttered complaints to the camera before sleeping. Day 8. At dawn, he checked the tree. A generous pool of resin had formed. He scooped it into bamboo containers, mixed it with wood shavings, and wrapped the paste in leaves. The result? A torch that could burn for at least 30 minutes. With it, he ventured into the cave. Even with the torch, Visibility barely extended a few meters. The air grew damp as he advanced. Then, disaster. The torch sputtered out. Now relying on his camera's dim light, he pressed forward. Just as despair crept in, a glimmer ahead, Ed Stafford's face lit up. Following the light, he emerged from the cave and spotted a small house in the distance. After 8 grueling days, he had finally returned to civilization. The challenge was complete.